Welcome to Founded on Purpose, the show where we get to know the people working to align business and impact, profit and purpose. I'm your host, Katie McBratney. Each episode, we welcome a founder, investor, or ecosystem builder to answer the same set of questions. While the questions are the same, the conversations and the insights they open up are incredibly different and wonderful. And today's guest is no stranger to asking hard questions and finding opportunities that others miss. Gayle Jennings-O'Byrne is the CEO of Wocstar, an early-stage investment fund focused on tech innovation brought to market by diverse, inclusive teams and women of color. She's a passionate advocate for investing in the green economy as a business opportunity, and she has incredible hat game. Gayle, welcome to the show.
Hey, Katie. Thank you so much for having me on. I just am a big fan of yours and so excited to be here on the other side of the microphone. So thank you for having me.
This is going to be fun. I already knew it the second we booked you, and I'm glad that we can share this with other people because while I would love to just have conversation with you all day long, it's so much richer when we can share it with so many smart and thoughtful people out there.
I love that.
We're going to start with question one, the same place we start with everyone. In one word, what's your purpose?
Demonstrate.
It's a verb. I love that.
Yeah.
Tell us more. How'd you come to that word? What does demonstrate mean to you?
I got there because I think of what we do in terms of how we champion for women, how we invest in women, how we mobilize allies, men and women, how we're seeking really cool technologies. And so I feel like we're just still in a place in this country, this world, this society where we still have to demonstrate the cool awesomeness of women, of inclusive teams, of new technologies. And so, demonstrate just sort of came to mind for me.
I really appreciate how that's such an active word, too. You can't passively demonstrate something. It makes me think of the writing adage, show, don't tell. You can't just say that you're doing something. You have to do the work.
Yeah, it really came to bear when we were raising a fund. I had, beautiful deck, beautiful story, worked at JP Morgan 20-some years, investment banker, and merger and acquisitions, all this good stuff, and Ivy League, right? So thinking, I can go raise a fund. This is going to be amazing. We're going to do some really cool stuff and return some raising capital to our investors. And then you keep hitting walls that say no on them. And I had to change how I talked about what we were doing. One, I had to just start investing. So it was the day after New Year's Eve or the day after New Year's Day, banks are open. I call my bank and I was like, hey, sell some of my JP Morgan stock, take some of my money on my savings, put it in the Wocstar fund, and then wire it to these companies. It was literally that not easy, but it was that direct of I just need to start investing and showing people what we're going to do. But the demonstrate part came when I said, you know what? I got to stop telling people what we're going to invest in, and I got to show them. I got to demonstrate. So I would go into meetings, and the first thing I would say is, hey, pull out your phone. When people would pull out their phone, and I'd be like, can you tell who called you? Who was your last phone call? And they'd be like, yeah. And I was like, hey, do you ever watch Law and Order? And you know how they're always going to the CCTV or the security camera, and they're like, yeah. I was like, I know, right? And then they'd be like, hey, did you press the button to get the flight attendant's attention anytime this last year on a plane? And they're like, yeah. And they're kind of now going where are you going with all this? And I was like, those are all inventions by a Black woman. And they'd be like, what? And I'd say, so imagine if we didn't have those, if those things didn't get developed and built and scaled and market penetration. I was like, I'm looking for the next cool products like that. And I think it sits in my sisterhood. And I was like, so now let me tell you about what I'm doing. And it totally changed the conversation. But it was the demonstration that was needed to get to that aha moment before people would sort of really take me seriously.
That's so powerful. And being able to recognize that opportunity to give people tangible examples that they've used countless times and then make it feels like it by demonstrating it makes things real for folks and relatable.
Yeah. And I bet people probably thought that my word was gonna be impact. It's so not. I mean, I'm a capitalist. I spent 20 some years on Wall Street. I like money. I like success. I like returns. Like, I mean, I can't not be impactful. I'm a Black woman in America. Like, I wake up and hopefully everything I do has some impact to it. But no, I'm about the Benjamins and success and, all boats rising. So, yeah, I'm sure someone thought my word was going to be impact, but it's not.
Good. I love a surprise. That's why it's the first question, right? Because it kind of gives us this anchoring point. Sometimes folks surprise themselves with the answers, or they'll say, my team probably doesn't know this, but, and it level sets, which I appreciate. And also naming that there is money to be made investing in Black women and women and so many different founders who don't necessarily pattern match a certain pattern that gets the vast majority of venture capital. It's in the name. It's in the title, venture capitalist, right? Our responsibility and our job is to generate returns, and how we do it, right? That philosophy, the ethos, the thesis can also do other things, can have impact. Why not both? That's kind of my thought is like, I'm a yes and person. And I know you have some theater experience as well. But
I invest. You actually work with theaters. I just invest in them.
I bet every actor, writer, director is like, oh, investment definitely counts.
I love it. But there's something that you said, and I just want to make sure that we don't miss the mark on, which is the investing that we do comes from a place of just being inclusive and being female forward and realizing that it is a competitive advantage. So we're not exclusive. We're not for men. We're not for the bros. But it's more like, are we getting the best representation and inclusive excellence that will then help drive success for these companies?
I love that. Inclusion as a competitive advantage. You should put that on a mug.
Oh my God, that's so funny you say that, because I've been so into mugs lately. I think maybe because it's cold outside, I just want like some nice hot drink. I was going to say a hot toddy. I just want some hot drinks.
No judgment here.
So I'm all about the mugs these days.
There you go. New merch idea. It's hot in more ways than one, the beverage and the statement.
We do have a Wocstar mug on our account. I don't think anyone's ever bought one. Maybe my mom did, but yeah, we do have some merch.
Folks, this is your moment. Your mug put your mug where your mouth is.
My mug moment. I love it.
I'm curious. You had such a track record in your career of successes and moving into the venture space. I'm curious what your most recent win has been.
Oh my God. So that is so easy to tell you, which is one of the portfolio companies in our fund was acquired by Experian. So this company, Audigent, was bought by Experian, yes. And because of that exit, we were able to return all of the capital that our LPs, i.e. our investors, have invested and entrusted with us, and then return a little bit more to them. So 60% of our fund has been returned because of this one exit.
That's incredible. Congratulations to you, to that team. That's that's the founder dream. That's the investor dream.
Yeah, listen, and we're still investing. So this happened during our investment period. Because typically you raise a fund, you have a couple of years, 4 years to invest, and then you've got 4 or 5 years where you're harvesting and hoping to get exits and return capital. We're still investing, and yet we're returning capital. So my last 10 days have literally been on the phone with JP Morgan Chase and my banker and Carta, getting these wires out to our investors.
That's incredible.
It's been beautiful. And one of them wanted to understand about the distribution and the tax, and she had her husband and her 2 daughters, and I just walked them through it, and it was this beautiful like ability to show second generation about wealth creation through investing in women.
Congratulations. That's huge. And there's a couple threads in there, right? Like the fact that you're still in your investment period and have returned 60% of the fund, that challenges this idea of the power law where, 98% of your outcome needs to come from 2%, right? And
I mean, I'm just like, well, you're saying it, I'm not validating it, but yeah.
Yeah, right. And then also this idea of inviting more people to participate in the wealth generation in this asset class, right? And making sure, or doing our best to make sure that the LP base, the investor base in venture, is inclusive as well as the founders that we back.
That's right. Yeah, we were very intentional. I had to sort of not fight, but I sort of had to push back on my legal team when we were forming the fund, and even my board about like where we were going to go start our fundraising. Because everyone wants the pension funds and the endowments and the institutional investors, and so we were even sort of wrestling with the minimum that people could invest. And I said, hey, listen, if we get a woman who's never been in this asset class before, who's interested in being in it, if she comes in with $1, I'm going to help make that work for her because I want her to have exposure to this. It's all about access. And so, yeah, I mean, we don't have anyone for $1, but we have some smaller investors. And I got to tell you, I love our investors. We have someone who is a dairy farmer. We have a couple who are both doctors. I mean, we have retirees. We have people that are in my neighborhood. So, listen, I don't think I ever want to show up and do something embarrassing, but there's this feeling of like, I could be in the grocery store and my investors in the line behind me at Whole Foods or, at the drugstore. So there's this sense of responsibility that looks different than just fiduciary responsibility, because there's faces and there's names and there's stories, and again, there's that neighbor 2 blocks, down from my apartment, that really makes this intentional about who gets to be at the table. And I don't forget that because of those people that are sitting around the dining room table with me.
We've talked about some of these missed opportunities, right? Including what you just shared about the opportunity to have an inclusive investor base, investing in Black women, all of these things. What would you say is the biggest missed opportunity in the field?
I think it's just that. I think it's recognizing that allies and investors can come from all walks of life. And so even as I think about helping our founders raise their next rounds, and as we think about maybe having fun too, I'm thinking about the investor base being more inclusive. And so do I spend my time trying to get to sovereign wealth funds and getting more institutionals, or do I really do what I say about inclusiveness and be able to find those folks in the Midwest who would love to be a part of this? Find those folks in small town America, those flyover places. That to me gets exciting. That's the missed opportunity, is that we're not allowing more people to experience what I believe is truly a way towards generational wealth.
Yes. I've been thinking recently of this idea of creating more surface area for opportunities to happen. And my belief, and a hill I will die on, is that community is at the heart of it. It's human connection, it's relationships, not transactions. And that's such a beautiful example of that, of saying, like, how are we creating access? How are we inviting participation? How are we being intentional instead of treating investors, strategy, fundraising kind of like boxes to tick, or like line items on a spreadsheet, which I think is an easy an easy pattern to get into because we're all so busy. The world is demanding. It's not going to slow down or get any less noisy anytime soon. And just having those moments to say, wait, what am I trying to achieve here? And how is it aligned with my purpose? Can I do better? And sometimes the answer is no. And sometimes the answer is, what if you tried this?
Yeah. The other thing you're absolutely right. The other thing we talk about with our sisterhood, our ecosystem, is being intentional with your purchasing power. When I started this company, Wocstar Capital, it was my savings, right? I was leaving my job at JP Morgan, and I said to my husband, hey, here's our balance sheet. I'm going to take this percentage of it and get this company started. I promise you we will not go into foreclosure. We will not lose the co-op roof over our head. And I had to think about, as I was building the company, how I was using my purchasing power. And so I was like, I'm going to hire those folks that share my mission and my value. Who's inclusive? So our law firm, before we signed them, I was like, hey, I want to have a diverse team representing us. Now I want the biggest and baddest law firm in tech VC, but in that, I also want you to have a diverse team on my account. That trickles through every vendor that I have hired. Our web designers, our bookkeeper, our insurance broker are 2 women, right? I mean, everywhere you look, up and down the company, we are being intentional about how we use our purchasing power. And so I say that to others. I say, listen, maybe you're not in a position where you can invest. But I know you bought some earrings last week. I know you're going to buy some holiday gifts. I know you're going to be buying birthday gifts this year. Be intentional about where you buy and who you buy from. That's another way you can invest in a startup.
Yes, I'm extremely late to the game with this phrase. I learned it this morning. I will admit that. But the phrase, and I will try, I think this is the direct quote, is a budget is a moral document.
Oh, I'm late too. I've never heard that.
Okay, well, welcome, because I'm apparently the brand new member. And it's stuck with me. I've been thinking about it all day. So I love how serendipitous this is that you brought that up, because it's very true. And also, I think it's a good reminder, especially to the founders out there. Investors are founders too. They're running a business, and they're it's not like we're like sitting back on some leather chair being like, oh, who shall I give millions of dollars to today? Like,
no, we're trying to make payroll.
We're having to make decisions on vendors, hiring teams, looking at the economics of our companies, all of these things. And I think I can say that moving from the founder and operator life to the VC world has given me more empathy for investors, because
yeah, I'm glad to hear that. It's funny, when you were doing your introduction, I was like, now which one am I? Am I a founder? Am I an ecosystem builder? Am I an investor? And I kind of thought I'm all of those, because I really did start with the idea of building a company of which venture investable dollars is a tool, but it's only one tool in our toolbox. So sometimes I push back on thinking of myself as a venture capitalist and think of myself more as an entrepreneur who's building this venture platform.
So cool. Yeah. Why not all three? Why not tick all boxes? We can be multiple things at once. I
know, right? Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. Our 3 pillars are to champion, which we do through what's called Wocstar Academy. So it's like champion and training. And then we invest, and then we storytell. We can try to get really good stories out there about women and just people in general. So yeah, we can wear a couple of different fedoras.
But what I'm thinking of as you're dropping these gems and you're sharing your experience and your journey, you could do an entire podcast about the things that you have done right and the lessons you have learned. I'm wondering, what's something that you've been wrong on?
Oh, I love that you asked that. So we have this, I have, and my team just is kind and allows and humors me, which is fess up to your fuck ups. And I'm always about, guys, fess up to your fuck ups. Like, they're not fatal. Just fess up to them and let's probably solve through them.
Also love the alliteration. I'm a huge fan of alliteration. So
yeah, I mean, they've made me stop, and I think they might have used it on social once, and they changed it to fess up to your F ups or something. But yeah, you know what the full wording is. Oh gosh, I make so many mistakes. But I'm learning to laugh at them. I'm learning to own them, and I'm learning to say them to my team and practice what I preach. Let's see. One that happened recently was we were working with someone, some group, and I was gung ho, and I thought, yep, this is going to be it. This is the one. This is the team. This is our peeps. And there were probably some little things that if I were more clued into, probably told me that they weren't. But what happened was I got so invested in, I don't know, like maybe some cost and ego, and I just gone too far down the path that I couldn't just say, hey, you know what, maybe this isn't working. And I just kept trying to make it work until finally part of the team had to be like, yeah, this isn't working. So lesson is for me was having more confidence in that little voice. I was kind of pushing it to the side, which is interesting because I have good judgment and I have confidence, and I sleep well at night. Well, not always, but I can make decisions and sleep well after having made them. But what I realized is that it's a muscle. Like sometimes you can flex it, sometimes you gotta work and get in the gym with it. And that muscle wasn't working the way that it should, and so I had to be okay with like, I missed that one.
And you're still here to tell the tale, right? To your point, it wasn't fatal. Like, you learned, life, business moves on.
Yeah, and you know what I am proud of is that we just had to have a conversation, and I just had to be okay having a difficult conversation. But in doing so, it turned out to be an okay conversation because they were like, this isn't working either. And I was like, hey, why did one of us raise our hands sooner? And that's something that is my pet peeve, sorry. It's a big pet peeve, but I'm going to say this to everybody who's listening. Like, just man up, woman up, and just have a conversation. Like, it's okay. Like, it could start out being a difficult conversation, but it doesn't have to end as a difficult one. But just like combo, like, I don't know, is ghosting still a word? I'm 55, so I'm probably.
I think so. I used it this morning.
I even see it like with investors. Sorry, now I'm like just venting, but like when we were fundraising, like people just wouldn't get back to you, and it'd be like, dude, if it's a no, just say no. Like, I'm a big girl, like, and you know what? And then I can move on. You can move on. You're not gonna get like a bunch of emails and like voicemails from me. Like, it's cool. Like,
there's nothing like that feeling of anticipating a hard conversation. And I think a lot of people prolong, and myself included, like I am not perfect, but you prolong that feeling when you avoid having the difficult conversation. And that feeling after you've had it, even if it was uncomfortable, not what you wanted to happen, even if the outcome was less than perfect, you still feel better instead of having it hanging over your head or this limbo, right? Like, it's okay to be thoughtful and take your time making decisions, but like, please don't ghost. Please don't ghost people. Just like close the loop. Say I need more time. Say I need more info. Say no. It's okay. Say something.
I even say that to the team when we're due diligencing and looking at companies. And listen, if it's a no, let them know as soon as you know it's a no. And if it's a yes, try to get to a yes quickly. And if you need time, let them know you need time. And I was like, people entrepreneurs, founders will appreciate that. But like everyone is so busy, so don't waste people's time. Don't have them hanging on waiting, wondering.
Yeah. Or trying different angles when they might be doing everything right. And I think something I try to bring up, and when we aren't deploying capital, is like I let founders know up front, like a founder's time is one of the most precious resources, and it cannot be replenished in the same way other things can. You can get more AWS credits. You can, you can raise money. I'm not saying that that's easy or, equally accessible, but a founder's time is precious, and all of our time is precious. So being able to just let people know where you're at. We are the anti-ghosting squad here, representing today.
Here we go.
We talked about the difficult conversations, and a lot of this job can be hard. It can be very serious, right? Looking at term sheets, negotiations, having to tell people no, but also it can be really, really fun. There's also so much data that shows that creativity and play are good for our decision making, good for our health, all of that. I'm curious for you, how do you play in this busy world that we live in, and this position that you sit at as all three of a founder, investor, and ecosystem builder? What does play look like for you?
So cooking is my love language, and my husband is the biggest beneficiary of that. Even more so when COVID happened. I should be laughing and saying COVID at the same time, in the same breath. But when we started sheltering in place, he was getting like 3 gourmet meals a day. Like, I would be getting ready to start a Zoom call, and I would be like, "Oh, I'll be right on. I just got to take this frittata out of the oven." They'd be like, "What? Like, who's making a frittata?" And then like later that day, I was like, "Yeah, I just made a cheddar broccoli soup." And they're like, "Okay, so frittata in the morning, cheddar broccoli soup, and now you're doing like these like homemade egg rolls for like this whole Asian meal." And I was like, "Yeah, right." So
it sounds like I'd love to come for dinner. No, I remember during the pandemic also doing my company was a very community-led product, and doing a community call while also like a virtual event while also making a potato leek soup, and everyone's, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "This is a leek."
I love it. So cooking is my love language. That is one way that I have fun. I am active in terms of like golfing. I love biking. My husband and I are city bike people, so it's either Uber or city bikes for how we get around. Sorry, subway people. And probably something people wouldn't know unless I said it was puzzles.
Like jigsaw puzzles or word puzzles?
No, jigsaw puzzles. Like, I go to Goodwill and we'll get like 3 or 4 puzzles, and then we'll finish them in like, I don't know, a couple weeks, and we'll be back to drop those ones off and then we'll get new ones. And I even said to our local Goodwill, I was like, "So what's the deal? Because you guys just never have them." She goes, "Well, because you and your husband are always here getting puzzles, that we just started like getting more of them." And I was like, "Oh, I love that." Yeah.
How fun. I do love a puzzle. I have a kindergartner and a kitten, so our jigsaw puzzles have been in the closet for a bit because doing them is great. It's just we can't leave them out. Because you talk about 2 steps forward, 10 steps behind, and then you lose the puzzle pieces, and I can't handle that. I'm like, that missing piece just drives me bonkers.
Yeah, so that's fun. That's fun for me.
Okay, I'm curious, as we're getting close, we only have 2 questions left. This time is flying. I know.
Hello.
I know. All right. I'm like, how do I even frame this for you? How do you navigate taking advice? Right? You're doing something that has been done before in some ways, but you're doing it differently. You're doing it with your own interpretation, your own values, your own spin and experience on it. How do you navigate what advice to let in and what advice to just say thank you and let the universe have it back?
I like to pilot everything. Right? I'm a beta girl. I'm a pilot girl. Taste test. So I will take in all the advice. Some of it I'll act on. Others I will just taste test and, pilot in my brain for a bit and noodle around a bit. But I do try to take it all in. The one thing though is I'm always trying to think about what's their agenda. And not in like a creepy, like the world's out to get me, but just sort of like, where is this coming from? How do I make sure this is a blessing for what I'm involved with? And just like receive it for the goodness that I believe it's coming from. And if it doesn't feel good that way, then I'm also kind of like, all right, let me kick this around. But if that kind of feeling comes up, then I'm easier to let it go. But the question you didn't ask before that is, am I good at asking for advice? And I'm practicing that. Because sometimes I find I am doing a lot of mentoring and not making space to be mentored. And so I'm trying to be, or this last year, I'm trying to be more deliberate in calling on people and asking them questions and setting up time to be like, hey, do you have, just like a text, be like, hey, do you have 15 minutes on Friday? I just want to run something by you and get your thoughts. And doing those little pop-ups like that more often.
I love that you frame that as a practice. It's another muscle we can all easily take small steps, right, to regularly get better at, because you can never be perfect. That doesn't exist. But okay, we're rounding it out with the last question. What is the most challenging thing about your job, and what is your favorite thing about what you do?
The most challenging is trying to do this at scale such that we can truly, truly impact, use the word impact, but so that we can truly change systems and realities for founders. And that I struggle with and think a lot about. So for instance, even that big exit that we had and returning capital to our investors, how do we scale that in a way that unlocks more people to get excited about fund managers that look like me, have backgrounds like me, experiences like me, to get excited about fund managers like me, and then founders that we're that are part of our investment thesis. So that's the challenge, and I haven't cracked that code, but that's the thing I think a lot about. And I think that's probably why we do things in addition to just the investing, right? Like, if I could get up every day and just be a venture capitalist, like, I'd probably get a lot more sleep and I wouldn't have so much dark circles under my eyes. But, we do the training. We have the Wocstar Academy where we're teaching entrepreneurs how to raise capital and how to tell their story, because we want them to be successful, even if we're not able to invest in them directly. And then with Wocstar Media, I want us to have a way that we can get more stories out there, because I believe storytelling is the way that we connect as human beings. And there's a lot of isms, and there's just a lot in the world right now. But I think if we can really see each other as humans and as neighbors, and storytelling is a way to sort of see through that, I think a lot of the isms and problems and divisiveness that we have as a society could start to be eliminated. And so,
as humans, we created these problems. We can also solve them.
That's right. So that's the challenge: is how do we do this in a system, in a way that's addressing the systemic and the systems. The fun part of this, so the joy, comes from the people. It comes from my team. So they could go work at Goldman or BlackRock or Greycroft or you name it, and make triple what they're making here. But they are like me. We're public servants to entrepreneurs. That's how we interview people. It's like, are you ready for public service? Like, you've had corporate, you've had a finance, career, now you're ready for public service out of these people. So my joy comes from the people on my team and seeing their development. and then the joy of the founders and the investors. I know it sounds cheesy, but seeing someone manifest a dream or a vision that they had is so, this is now I'm really getting cheesy. Like, it's not like you're in the room when they're giving birth, but it is this like special moment that they're letting you in on, right? Like, it's really beautiful to be a part of that and the people let you in. And then for me, the investors, because we have such different types of investors, seeing them on this journey of like, I invested because it's Gayla, and then be like, no, now I'm an investor because I just friggin' love like this technology and all of that cool stuff you're investing in. Like, that's a beautiful arc to see, or just seeing others learning about this asset class has been really cool. And even like, our institutionals, like they weren't familiar with these entrepreneurs and the things that we're investing in. So seeing them get excited, like, wow, like you're really doing this, like you're succeeding at this. This is kind of cool.
It's almost magical, and I know that I'm grateful to be a person who knows you and be in community with you, because I truly think that is a huge, I don't know, superpower, turbocharge, whatever it is. I think that's the engine that is going to drive the system's change. And it requires us all to be doing it, all of us to be coming together. And that's the joy, is where people doing really, really hard things and also really, really freaking cool things. And the journey is amazing.
Yeah. And I was amazed when I got into venture how actually inefficient the financial markets are in this category. When you look at other parts of finance, from trading to syndicated loans to equity, the equity capital markets, not equity as an investment tool. And there's so much efficiency, right? You look at the stock exchange, there's so much efficiency in how those markets operate. And then you get to VC, and between the fundraising and then the allocating, Girl Scouts make us look like pretty freaking janky, if you ask me. Like,
talk about a well-oiled machine there.
Yeah.
You got it down.
Oh my God! I ended up buying like 4 boxes just yesterday. It's this. I got 4 boxes yesterday. They're good, man. Like, they got me. But venture capital, we have so much inefficiency. Like, none of us should be holding our heads up high. We got to figure this out. So that's one of the things I think a lot about. And we'll get there. I'm going to be a part of it. We'll get it done. But we got to make this market more efficient in terms of how we pool capital and then how we allocate it.
One day, one deal, one founder at a time. This has been so lovely. I could stay and talk to you for like 17 hours. For those who want to stay on your journey, want to connect, want to follow along with all the great work you're doing, where can they find you on the internet? How can they get involved with all that Wocstar is doing?
Yeah, I'll make it simple. Start at Wocstar.com, our website. There you'll find our social handles. You'll find my social handles. I do return all my emails. You'll find me on LinkedIn. I'm kind of horrible at the DMs on LinkedIn, the messages, but I'm getting better at them. But start with our website, Wocstar.com. And I would be remiss if I didn't tell to any founders out there that we have a course through Wocstar Academy. It is currently free to founders. And we're teaching you how to raise capital and how to tell your story. And one of the most popular classes is what investors ask and what they're listening for. And they're very different, and we're going to tell you all about it in class.
We will link to all of those in the show notes. Gayla, thank you so much. This is so fun, and I can't wait to see what wins are still in store for you in 2025.
Well, hopefully we'll be winning together.
Agree. I'm down.
All right, let's do it. Thanks for having me.